Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas, and I am finishing my list of my top 20 favorite movies of the 1980s. 1980s, decade I was born in, so that was an important decade for me. Um, and so I'm getting to my top 5 favorite movies. So I'd say these top 5, pretty good top 5. Really love these movies. I said in my first video that 1980s is kind of a decade. It's kind of one of my least favorite decades as far as movies and music. I don't know. I don't usually pick a lot of movies from that or music from that era for some reason. I don't know why. It's just not an era that I've been crazy about. But my top 5 is very strong, I think, and they're all, unlike some of my lists, my top movies are more of the top dramas, the ones that really get me emotional and you know yeah, so really more emotional type movies are usually my top movies of a decade. Though I like all kinds of genres. I have a lot of action movies and a lot of my stuff and comedies, but I love a good drama that really either makes you think or I love a good feel good type movie, of course, and one that just kind of even makes me cry. I enjoy those movies too that can really hit me an emotional point. Looking at my top 5, that's not really any of my top 5. These are more fun action adventure movies, and these are some of the best of all time, I think, that are my top 5. They're all big franchise movies, all big blockbusters, really. Anyways, that's what I like in the 1980s, is the big blockbusters. So I'm going with one of the big ones. Number 5 is Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Starring Harrison Ford there is Indiana Jones. Yeah, this is just the central action adventure fun movie of all time. I mean, I grew up watching this movie and I watched it so many times. I still have so much fun watching it. Love the plot of trying to find the Ark of the Covenant. You know, it's a really interesting kind of sci-fi idea in there. Spielberg's just an amazing director. I think the greatest action adventure thriller director there's ever been, and I just watched a documentary on him on HBO Max about Spielberg. Very interesting documentary, and kind of when you look through his whole filmography, I mean, it's just his action adventure movies are just to me is what makes him one of the great all-time directors, and how he directs and edits and shoots it. He's just so good with the camera. And I think this has some iconic scenes, like the very beginning scene in the temple with the ball rolling and him having to escape. Great beginning to the movie. Then the bar fight scene in Nepal. It's a great action sequence. You know, it has a lot of classic elements in there. Bars on fire. There's, you know, bottles and alcohol and shooting going on. And then towards the end with the chasing the. Oh, then you got the scene where they're trying to kidnap the girl in the movie, and he does the famous, you know, shooting the guy with the sword instead of fighting him with a sword. So many great scenes like that. And Indiana Jones is such a great character, one of my favorite characters. Harrison Ford is so good. He's so cool. Love the outfit, the hat, the whip, the jacket. I mean, such a great, iconic look. And Harrison Ford is just one of the great actors, I think, of this period. And performs so well. He's such a great character. Of course, he can do the action. He looks great, fighting and all that stuff. But then he's also actually got some good humor in there too, and he's got some good, you know, sarcastic like one-liners. And anyways, he's just such a fun character. Anyways, but I always love the Indiana Jones movies, and that's why Raiders of the Ark from 1981 is number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list, one of the big franchises, trilogies of all time, and this is going to be Star Wars, the 6th one, The Return of the Jedi. This one has all 3 movies in it, this Blu-ray, but I'm going with Return of the Jedi as my favorite Star Wars movie, coming at number 4 on my list, and it came out in 1983, the year I was born. And you're probably thinking, what? Return of the Jedi better than Empire Strikes Back? Yes, I'm probably the only one that has Return of the Jedi as my favorite. I had Empire Strikes Back at number 6 on my list, so it's not too far behind this one. Both are really excellent Star Wars movies, and of course, the original Star Wars movie Also one of the great classics of all time, probably the greatest trilogy of all time. Great sci-fi for sure. Of course, grew up just a huge fan of Star Wars. I love what they're doing now with the Mandalorian, and I'm curious to see some more Star Wars stuff on Disney Plus. Um, Not a fan of the prequels, not a fan of the last trilogy, sequels. I think have done such a terrible job. Original trilogy is so good, it's still great to watch. And the reason why I have Return of the Jedi, I think a lot of people don't like Return of the Jedi nearly as much because of the Ewoks. They say, oh, they hate the Ewoks. You know, it's the cute little bears. I don't hate the Ewoks. They're not my favorite part of the movie, but I don't think they exactly ruin the movie to me. I can kind of get that the idea that these Ewoks with spears, their own homemade spears and rocks and slingshots, is going to take down the stormtroopers who has armor and laser guns. Now that's very unrealistic. I don't think that could happen. Could done without that part, but like I said, it doesn't ruin the movie to me. What I love about this, of course, I love the ending of a franchise. I guess a lot of times the last movie of a big franchise or trilogy, if they do it well, it's usually my favorite because that's when you get the ending of the conflict. We're trying to stop this bad guy, and you don't stop until the last movie, and then we get to see the characters have happy endings. So I guess I always like that, see the conflict resolution and the happy ending for the main characters and the overall goal being accomplished. I really like that. So that's why I like Return of the Jedi is my favorite there. Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, another Return movie. Great, my favorite of the Lord of the Rings movies. Avengers Endgame is my favorite of the Marvel movies because it kind of ends kind of the Avengers storyline. Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my favorite of the Harry Potter movies. So I can go on and on about it. Just the last movie is usually my favorite in a really good trilogy or franchise. And I especially love so many good elements in this movie to talk about, but I'll just say that I love Luke's and Darth Vader's, the arc that those characters have. And that, especially Darth Vader. And of course, I didn't say in the last video, but spoilers for Star Wars, if you don't know, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad, Anakin Skywalker, which is revealed in the prequels especially. Or he's revealed in Empire Strikes Back, and then seen the backstory in the prequels. So everybody should know that. It's not a real big secret that that's what happens. And so, but I love the idea of Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, being a good Jedi, turned to evil, being a Sith, and then that his son is trying to, kind of risk his life, sacrifice his life in order to try to help his dad get back to the light side. And I just love that idea. That I don't think we've ever seen really a movie before this done so well, that you have the bad guy turn to being good at the end, like they did in this movie. And I just love that. That scene with him and Palpatine electrocuting Luke and him calling out to his dad, Father, help me. To me, that actually made me emotional. It always makes me, gives me goosebumps. I get kind of emotional during that scene because I think it's done so well. And I love that idea of, loving your father so much and loving your son so much. Anyway, so that's why Return of the Jedi is number 4 on my list from 1983. Number 3 on my list, great action franchise, I suppose, but the first one's not as action-y, but I actually love the story on this one. It's First Blood, also known as Rambo, First Blood, with Sylvester Stallone playing Rambo there. Another great classic Sylvester Stallone character, probably best known, that and Rocky, of course, his two best characters. First Blood is, just really great. You call it an action movie, though. There's really not that much action in it. But I love Stallone's performance. It's just amazing as this guy who's coming back from Vietnam. He's a Green Beret, not only Green Beret, but probably the greatest Green Beret of all time. Jungle warfare, he's prisoner of war. He's seen a lot of terrible stuff. And of course, it's looking at society at the time of Vietnam vets coming back from the war and not really being welcoming back, unlike other wars like World War II, where the soldiers are seen as heroes. This time, Vietnam War vets aren't seen as heroes, and so they come back and they have nothing. They've fought this war, they've sacrificed their lives, and they come back and then they don't have a job, and they're kind of looked down upon. So it's kind of looking at that a little bit. But I love this character that he comes to this town, and the sheriff wants to bully him. And it's like, I love those movies where you mess with the wrong guy, and then bad things happen. It's one of those situations where they just mess with the sheriff likes to bully people, and he bullied the wrong guy. Rambo's not a guy to bully because he can fight back, and he can take you out pretty easy because of his training. So I don't know. I just love that idea that he kind of escapes the sheriff and the police officers, and they're going after him. And, he's telling them, hey, I know I've seen things you never can dream about, or I've seen things that are in your nightmares. And, if you want a war, I'll give you a war, and you don't want it. And yet they still want to go after him. And I don't know, I just love that back and forth. And I love the character as he's kind of breaking during the movie. And he says, they struck, first blood, they struck first, and now I'm going to finish it kind of attitude. And he's kind of taking all his anger and aggression from, coming back from the war on this sheriff in there. It's a little town of police officers, and how he kind of goes unhinged towards the end, kind of, because of all that's going on anyways. But yeah, I just really love this movie. First Blood, coming out in 1982 anyways. Yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't. The second sequel is a little more actiony, and it's a pretty decent action movie, but I really love the first one, the psychology of it, more than the action of it. Anyway, so then go to number 2 on my list. I already talked about him once. I'm talking about it again. It's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Again, this is the third movie in the trilogy, and like I said, I love the third movie in trilogy, and so here's another, but it's not really exactly a trilogy like the other ones. They're not really that closely connected, the 3 movies, except for Indiana Jones being in them, and Harrison Ford. Actually, there's definite girlfriend pretty much in every single movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark definitely made a real good, great beginning for the character, and this was such a great ending for the kind of character. Not counting Indiana Jones 4, the Crystal Skull. I guess I'm not even counting that as a movie. I don't even think about it. To me, it's just this movie is the last one. Of course, Spielberg again, just such a great director. Action movies, some great action sequences. Even though the beginning with River Phoenix playing the young Indiana Jones, and kind of figuring out the backstory of how Indiana Jones kind of got his look, and why he's afraid of snakes, why he got a whip. There's some great chase sequence there, and the circus train, very unique, clever ideas. And then as he's traveling, this time he's trying to find the goblet that Jesus Christ drank at the Last Supper. I say goblet, that's not the right word for it. The Holy Grail. I forgot that's what it's called. The Holy Grail. So they're searching for the Holy Grail. And I love these ideas of searching for these, incredibly biblical, these would be amazing finds archaeologically. The first movie, they're looking for the Ark of the Covenant. This one, they're working for the Holy Grail. So I just love these ideas, these huge ideas of, and I love the idea that, these are things, of course, that are in the Bible, and obviously things that, we'll never find in real life. But so I love the idea that, it's a big ideas of concept of trying to find this kind of almost supernatural, artifact. I guess I'm trying to say this supernatural artifact that has such significance in history. I love that idea, and I wish they would continue. I'd love to see more Indiana Joneses, discovering these ancient, artifacts, like these 2 movies. I'm not a big fan of Temple of Doom, and not a big fan of King of Crystal Skull. I'm not saying that right, because they don't have the biblical aspect to them that I like in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade. Anyway, so I love that whole idea. Of course, it's part mystery, trying to find it, action, and then I love this movie the most out of the Indiana Jones is Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's dad, Dr. Jones. I love their chemistry together as father and son. A lot of great humor. It's probably the funniest of the Indiana Jones. I think has the most laughs out of it, which I enjoy. Action movie that has good laughs in it. And Sean Connery is such a good actor. I mean, underrated actor, I would say. I think he gives a really good performance as the father, and they actually have some really good moments together. Uh, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. Like I said, some humorous, some actually very dramatic. About the relationship because they have a strange relationship as father and son. And I even like the ending, how it kind of this estranged father and son that haven't got along, kind of forming this bond over this adventure. And so there's actually a really good emotional aspect to it at the end that I enjoy. Really enjoy about this movie. Um, I love the action sequence on the tank where Indiana Jones is trying to get his father off this Nazi tank, and he's fighting this Nazi general, colonel, whatever, on top of this tank. And it's going over a cliff, and other people are shooting. I mean, just amazing action sequence, and it's edited so well. Obviously, I didn't say before, but also the uh, musical score is so great. John Williams, one of the greatest. Love the Indiana Jones theme. Anyways, yeah. So I can say a lot about Last Crusade, but it's number 2 of my favorite movies of the 1980s. Came out in 1989. Number 1 favorite movie, and I've talked about, I've talked about the other sequel. One of the other sequels is Back to the Future. And I'm going for the original Back to the Future, the very first one, 1985. I've talked about the Back to the Future Part 2 is number 7 on my list, so that was also pretty high on my list. The third one I like a lot too. This is definitely one of the best trilogies of all time, I think. But the first one is so amazing. I absolutely love this movie. I watch it so many times, and I watch it constantly. I see it on TV, I watch it. And such a great idea. I love the sci-fi idea of time travel. And I especially love this idea of time traveling back in time, meeting your parents when they were teenagers, and then accidentally erasing your existence because you broke you stopped your parents from getting together, and now you don't exist anymore. I mean, it's one of the great ideas, great script ideas, I think, of all time, and having the whole movie's trying to fix it so that you can exist again. Great, obviously great stakes, great conflict, trying to make sure you exist in the future, you don't fade away. And I love the idea that you find that out by looking at a picture, and if you fade away from the picture, then your existence is gone. Such a great way of figuring that out. And it's really a sci-fi comedy in a way. Very funny. Michael J. Fox is so funny in this role. His greatest role. Guy playing Doc Brown. Now Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd's so great as Doc Brown. I love Doc Brown in this movie, the trilogy, this movie especially. And I love the chemistry between McFly and Doc Brown, or I should say Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. Such a great. It's funny. They're kind of this. He's kind of this much older guy than this like teenager and this guy in his 50s. Yet they have this great friendship, and actually it comes out really well, I think. We actually care about their friendship, and there's actually a very emotional part at the end of the movie. Actually gets you really emotional about their friendship. Anyways, I think that's done really well. I love Biff as the bully. Such a good bad guy character. And I love Crispin Glover as playing his dad. He's absolutely hilarious in this movie. Like I said, so many great iconic scenes. Using the DeLorean to travel through time, such a great idea. The very end of the clock tower and trying to hit it when the lightning strikes so you can go back. I mean, such a great sequence. Again, great musical score. Alvin Silvestri gave one of the great musical scores in this movie. Great sound effects for the everything. Yeah, it's just one of the great movies of all time, in my opinion. One I keep going back to over and over again. So yeah, number 1 favorite movie of the 1980s, Back to the Future. So yeah, that's the end of my list, my top 20 favorite movies. So feel free to comment on what your favorite movies of the 80s is. What is your favorite movie? What's your top 5 or 10? I would love to see. And I should say, there's a channel called Rich Trickler. That's the name of the guy on his channel, and he's been doing a lot of doing rankings of the different decades. Currently, he's doing the 1970s, but he's done the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Now he's doing the 70s, but it's really great. I love his rankings. Him and two other guys, Brian and Doc, or Sean. Um, Definitely check out Rich Strickler's channel, see more decades. And I'm trying to go through all the decades and going through 80s. So next I'll be going through the 70s, doing another top 20. I really love doing these lists and kind of analyzing these movies. And anyway, so thank you for watching this, and thank you to all my subscribers. I really appreciate it. Have a good day.